Welcome back to the news channel of Nghe An Newspaper and radio and television on YouTube platform. Here, we share and interact with the hottest and newest issues that the public at home and abroad is interested in. And here are some notable contents.
According to Front, Ukrainian HUR military intelligence recently shared the video showing that the country's forces were targeting 2 Russian air support radar stations in Kharkiv. In particular, they claim to have fired a low-level radar of 48 IA-6K1 LET and an RLMM module from the 556 Mnebor compound. USAA adds that RLMM module was destroyed while on the move. Thus, while Russian personnel were leaving their assignment, Ukrainian drones attacked. The potlet is designed to detect planes, helicopters, and drones flying near the ground, while the Nebum complex can track the missile and the target increases the image. Meanwhile, Tikbos also referred to the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Agency, which caused numerous explosions in the cities of Penza and Saratov in Russia. In particular, at least 4 explosions occurred in Benzladony County about 4 a.m. local September 8 a.m. damaged 2 main air pipes that have total capacity to up to 2 million barrels a day. Sources add that 2 pipes at the same location are under attack. U.S. Military Intelligence Agency says damaged pipelines provide fuel for military locations that the Russians use in conflict with Ukraine. However, local media in Benzia published articles claiming that these events were part of a drill that had been planned with the participation of emergency and security forces. This oil pipeline has an annual capacity of 82 million tons, which are said to also fuel the Russian military in the conflict. According to Ukraine, this is the 3rd oil infrastructure in Russia disabled within 24 hours. The warrior soldiers of the USR Guard crew of the Ukrainian Armed Forces recently shot down a Russian rocket named Iskatka by bringing in the Zu-232 Air Support Force, which also posted a video on the social network that showed that the missile was shot down in an air raid by Russian troops on the night of 7th to 8th of the capital. The Russian aerial attack was made by the soldiers of the Missile Battalion and the crew's air artillery. Z-232 is the Sovietly designed 23 mm size air artillery. It can be used to remove aerial targets at a range of up to 2,500 meters and an altitude of up to 2,000 meters. Our DRO is armed with 23 millimeters in place with blasting warheads and transtracted armor warheads that set the line on fire. The Ukrainian armed forces used such weapons, mostly to shoot down the UAVs, attacking their father's suicide by 136 and Russian drone. Earlier, soldiers who were familiar with a low strike cell group had shown a high effect when many times they used their shoulder rockets to drop Russian rockets of the KH-101 and Calip type. These are targets that can be completely vulnerabilities due to slow speed and low altitudes that are very easy to intercept if they detect a distance flight.
In the long-term conflict context, the Ukrainians are pushing more aggressively against Russia's energy facilities than ever before in order to cripple some of Moskva's economic arteries. As a result, targeting in energy became a method of industrial warfare. Instead of focusing solely on direct competition, Ukrainians seek to weaken their rear, where fuel and energy are supplied for enemy military activity. The Ukrainian raids have caused about 20% of Russia's oil filtering capacity to be interrupted by more than 1 million barrels a day on its own in August this year. More than 10 oil filtering plants and storage facilities of Russia have been hit by forces, including facilities at Gironota and Zyron, which play a significant role in the chain of fuel response to the Russian military. Last month, Russia's oil revenues dropped 36% over July, which was about $3.5 billion and lost 35% in the same year of the same year as the first 8 months of the year, which amounted to only $7.5 billion, forcing the Russian Ministry of Finance to lower year by $102.8 billion. However, the observation world has determined to achieve long-term goals and efficiency. The Ukrainian campaign depends also on the ability to maintain new attacks, the accuracy of accuracy, and the control of the widespread impact. One of the incentives for pressurizing campaigns is the relative weakness of the Russian air defense system. After a long time dealing with the strike, the cost of defense missiles is not as high as the ability to produce supplements, the need to distribute forces in many areas also makes some targets in the rear less secure areas as well. The technological advances in the UAV drone enabled Ukraine to take advantage of the opportunity. These multiple-based attacks, the ability to jam radar or fire defense have improved efficiency and reduce costs, RNGT. This opens up for KF tactical windows during the current period. However, the picture isn't one-dimensional. The Russians are pushing oil cooperation with China to compensate for exports, while Europe is still partly dependent on alternative energy that is at risk of rising prices when winter comes. In addition to military and economic matters, the attack on energy carries a diplomatic message. By proving the possibility of attack on key targets, KF sent a signal that Moscow cannot be safe even behind. However, crossing the border has made matters complicated. Dissolute power supply can affect some European nations, especially the Middle and Eastern Europe. This gave rise to differences within the European Union on how to deal with both Russia and Ukraine. In short, many Western countries have remained committed to aiding Ukrainians, but in terms of if the energy or economic benefits of Europe are seriously affected, the risk of developing divisions is to exist. The attack on the Russian energy floor reflects an adjustment in Ukrainian strategy after severe losses on the front lines. In view of the fact that the grave lines are increasingly difficult to break down and the military resources are consumed, K has been forced to find a way to shift the focus to an involuntary conflict, where long-range attacks can produce greater impact than the cost. This was not only a way to compensate for the disadvantages of the front line but also an effort to maintain a strategic initiative in the context of the conflict that lasted until the fourth year. With Ukraine, focusing on energy goals brings three key benefits. The first is to help reduce some of Russia's back-of-the-art and vegetative power, which is a lot dependent on fuel. Third, by proving the ability to maintain a deep attack in Russia, Ukraine reinforces the argument with its Western allies that the support of the UAV, the detective, and the essentials are being effective. However, the stability of this strategy presents many challenges. To maintain attack frequency, when pressure requires UAV supply and a steady intelligence system. The Ukrainian elements themselves can't be guaranteed without long-term outside support. Meanwhile, the Russians are strengthening the room, which means that the risk and cost level of every Ukrainian attack will get higher and higher. If the Ukrainians maintain the level of attack, they will increase the strategic pressure, force Russia to spread its resources, and face the indirect damage. On the other hand, if Russia's defense efficiency is raised, the campaign is at risk of altering the strategic advantage of KF, which is hard to turn into strategic advantage. This is an attempt to open another front where KF hopes to turn the top of the UAV technology and international support into 7 strategies. Its success depends on the ability of the Ukrainians to maintain the intensity of the attack as well as the extent of the bond and tenacity of the West in continuing to provide technology and support. In the context of long-term conflict, the question is, can KF hold the pace long enough to turn attack hits into strategic advantage, or will it be forced to adjust when faced with the limits of resources and fatigue of our allies? The miscalculations will result in an incredible lesson. And INGT, It has been and is responding strongly in battle as a warning to the wrong action, and LT/INGT. Invasion attacks have led to an unpredictable increase in stress, and sometimes it itself is the bright circle that is opposite of the Ukrainians.